Thank you for that introduction. Thanks everyone for coming out. Last time, I'm embarrassed to say, I was at this school was when my sister taught here some decades ago. I haven't been back to the school since. It's really nice to be in Nelson. Kia ora tātou to all of you. Fellow members, for the last 6 years, we've spent too much time talking about ourselves. And in my opinion, we must look outwards, not inwards. I don't have to convince you about Labour. You're here, I'm here, we're all here because we're already on board. But convincing ourselves is not our challenge. Our challenge is how we, that's you and me, the caucus, the party, the affiliates, how do we collectively connect with the 500,000 who aren't here? Because the sad truth is that we've lost our connection, and I think most of us here are ready to admit that. We know that New Zealanders elect Labour to lead them when they have confidence in us. They used to think we represent them, but they don't now. And so the big question is how we reconnect and drive towards a 50% vote. Because we can't survive as a subset of a subset of a subset. And in my opinion, we're at a crossroads, and we've got some choices to make. And the choice I'm standing for is clear. I'm standing to unify firstly ourselves and then our country around a unified purpose. I understand the power of a collective purpose. As a co-founder of the Dunedin Community Law Centre, I joined a group of inspiring people. We didn't have a lot of money, we didn't have a lot of backers, but we had something far better. We had a bunch of passionate people who believed in what we were doing. And we succeeded because our overriding purpose was clear. It was a new way of providing legal services and support to those in need. And we succeeded, and it's still working throughout New Zealand decades later. Now, it's the same for Labour. We will only succeed if we unify firstly ourselves and then the country around a central purpose. We can't emphasise everything. I want to lead Labour towards placing more emphasis on economic fairness. I want to elevate the economic fairness part of our agenda, which essentially is a fair go and a fair share. A rising tide that lifts all boats, not just the super yachts. Because for me, economic fairness is my primary driver. And in my opinion, it's what should drive Labour too. I want more equal outcomes. It's what used to drive Labour, and it needs to be updated for today. It starts, in my opinion, by reconnecting with working New Zealanders. Labour was born of working men and women for working men and women, and they were ambitious and optimistic for a better life, and in Labour they saw their pathway. They saw secure work, interesting work, jobs they'd jump out of bed for and rush out to, knowing that their families were secure, getting a good education with an affordable roof over their heads. And it pains me that we've lost that vital connection with working New Zealanders, most of whom now don't see Labour as being there for them. We need to talk to these people who should have voted for us but didn't. And this, in my opinion, is where in 2017 we are going to win or lose for Labour. Work's changed, but we haven't kept up. We must be there for the tied contractors, the couriers, the service technicians, the cleaners, the IT contractors who aren't employees, they're now tied contractors. We must be there for the unpaid interns, these people who are slaving away on no pay just to get an interview. We must be there for the people with 0-hour contracts who have uncertainty of hours from day to day and uncertainty of income from week to week. We must meet the challenges of the declining demand for labour caused by technology. How do we fairly share work and income? These truly are the labour issues of our time. Now, to meet these needs, we're also going to have to tackle the economic challenges that we face nationally, to lift productivity, to increase exports, to invest in modern jobs. Currently, our system is rigged. And it's rigged to drive speculation rather than investment in jobs. We reward speculation and we punish work. Every dollar of wages is taxed, but not capital income. Medium income earners pay higher rates of tax on their overall income than the wealthy, and that's just not fair. It's getting ever harder to get a home. Home ownership rates are the lowest in 60 years and still dropping. And now John Key's government is starting to flog off social housing. This current government is selling us short, and it's just not fair. Now, capital gains tax, it might not be the right answer, but if it isn't, then what is? Because we need some pro-growth tax reform in New Zealand to achieve the fairness that I stand for. Yes, we must be pragmatic. And I've suggested that we put the age of eligibility for super to New Zealanders to choose at referendum instead of bearing that cross ourselves. But the truth is, by the end of next year, government spends more on superannuation than it does on the whole of the education system. So let's not pretend there's not an issue that's real. We must reach out, listening, learning, it's what drives commitment. And our internal review is important to that. But I'll predict this one outcome already. The review will tell us that the number one missing ingredient was trust. We need trust to get working New Zealanders confident to voting for us. And building this trust isn't just about telling stories, it means change. Change starting from the top in the leader's office. Change for candidates so that they're chosen, trained, and ready for 2017. Change in how caucus works. Change in how we campaign. This costs money. We've got to do better on funding. I've got a plan to address this. Winning in 2017 will be about people, policies and presentation. It will include a change of style. And in my opinion, the country's going to be ready for a change in style by then. We need to defeat National. I bring credibility, skills and experience needed to take on John Key. I've been a leader in law, business and politics. In law, I was the managing partner of the largest law firm. I've taken companies from the start-up to the stock exchange. In opposition, I've restored our fiscal credibility, and in government, if I'm elected your leader, I will restore our electability. I want a fairer, more equality in society. I won't sell you short. I want your vote as leader of the Labour Party. Thank you.
Tēnā koutou katoa, good evening everybody, and let me add my thanks to the thanks already given for you all for turning out to be part of this very important process. You know, this has been a difficult year for Labour supporters and Labour activists and all of us who've been out on the campaign trail. It was a disappointing result, but so soon after that, the spirit of the party is still strong and members are prepared to turn out and be part of this very important process. And for those of you who are supporters of the Tasman Marcos, can I say it was a very good fight the other night, but I am from Taranaki, and no doubt I put at risk a few votes just in that alone. Fellow members and Labour Party members, the party needs to change. We need to make change. We've had 3 election losses in a row, and our party vote has continued to decline. More of the same is not acceptable. New Zealand's values are Labour's values. They are the values of supporting each other, of looking out for each other, of sticking together. Labour's values are the values of making sure that no one is left out and no one is left behind. But the sort of country that we are creating now is seeing more and more New Zealanders left out and left behind. You see it in our child poverty statistics. Nearly 250,000 children living in households that are below the poverty line, and many of them, not quite half, but many of them with a working parent in those households. We see it in work. More and more New Zealanders reliant on part-time, low-paid, insecure work. That's the growing reality for many New Zealanders today. We are becoming a country where more New Zealanders are being left out and being left behind. And there's only one political party in our political system that takes those issues seriously and addresses those issues meaningfully, and that's the New Zealand Labour Party. But we're not in government, and we're nowhere near it. And if we want to be in government and address those issues and fulfil our historical mission of lifting people and including people and giving people a chance to get ahead, then we need to be in government. But to do that, we have to get our house in order. We need to fix the machine. We need a caucus that acts cohesively, a caucus that communicates effectively within and between each other. We need a party that is working effectively. I've been the party president. I know there are gaps in our party organisation. I know that there are parts of the party that don't talk to each other, and we need to fix that. And we need to have a party that can run a party vote campaign like nothing we've ever run before, because we haven't done a decent party vote campaign for a while. And we need to harness the strength and the power and the resources of our affiliate members, 30 or 40,000 people who are affiliated to the party through their unions, but whose talents and time and skills we don't use. And we need to reach out to New Zealanders. Part of the change we need to make, is to address issues of policy. And one of the issues in this leadership contest is just that issue about policies. I'm on the record as saying we have to reconsider very seriously what policies we put up for 2017. See, I don't think we should put the capital gains tax policy up again in 2017. Most people in the party like that policy. It's well supported, and it's a good policy, and I've supported it. It's the right sort of policy. But I know for a fact that it is rejected by a lot of New Zealanders. And so we have to have that debate as well. You will hear on the debate about capital gains tax, it's not for the leader to decide on policy alone, unilaterally. But to that I say, the leader's got to lead. The leader's got to make judgments and back those judgments. And you'll hear, as David Parker has said, successful politics involves policies, people, and policy, people, and presentation. But it's more than that. There's an element that I don't think the Labor Party has got right for a long time, and it's political strategy. That's about understanding the environment that we're in, that we're campaigning in, that we're fighting in. And at 25% of the party vote, that is a different environment to what we were 1, 2, 3 elections ago. And we have to be realistic and honest with ourselves. Political strategy is not just about doing the right thing, but doing the thing right. That's a common business mantra. That's what makes it successful. I'm standing for the leadership of the Labor Party for 2 principal reasons. I have led significant change in a large organisation. I took the EPMU, which when I took over was an organisation in 3 parts, parts not talking to each other, people not talking to each other, and I brought it together and made it one. And I gave it a single focus, a single organising focus. I nurtured the talent that we had, and I brought in new talent. And I made it a high-impact, effective organisation. I wanted to do the same for the Labor Party. I have a demonstrated track record, I can do it. And we demonstrated what we could do with one of the most major wages campaigns, most effective wages campaigns that we ran probably in 25 years in this country, with the 505 campaign in 2005, that reached beyond the membership of the EPMU, reached beyond the union movement, and actually affected a lot of other New Zealanders. And the second reason I'm standing for the leadership of the Labor Party is about what drives me, about why I've been a lawyer and a union leader, and why I am an MP. And it's about justice. Actually, it's about injustice, because I cannot personally tolerate injustice when I see it. It sticks in my craw. And I don't like the way New Zealand is going, with more and more New Zealanders being left out, more and more New Zealanders being left behind. The injustice I'm talking about is when the powerful take advantage of the weak. And that's what's happening in New Zealand more and more. And we need a party, I want a party, that isn't flailing around on the sidelines anymore, but is in there talking about those issues that are relevant to New Zealanders and being part of that fight. That's what drives me. Please give me your first preferential vote for the leadership of the Labor Party. Thank you.
Kia ora, good evening. Can I thank you, Gail, for your role as moderator, and everybody who's put tonight together, and thank you all very much for coming along as well. The last time we did this, I looked out into the audience and I saw the young woman who I took to my 7th form formal in the audience, and it was the first time I'd seen her in a very long time. So far, no other skeletons in the closet as I look out there tonight, but it is a pleasure to see all of you here. I'm intensely proud of the Labour Party and the Labour movement. We have been behind most of the progressive changes that have been made in New Zealand's history, be it social security or social housing or a nuclear-free New Zealand or establishing the Waitangi Tribunal. We should be proud of those achievements. They are what make me proud of the Labour Party. And when we look at today's New Zealand, those values that have got us there, of fairness, of opportunity, of looking out for each other, are under more threat than ever. Right now, today, in Wellington, the National Party legislates to take away the right to a basic meal and rest break for workers. Right now, in Wellington, John Key and his government are dismantling social housing, the very thing that gave John Key his start in life. That's what we're up against, so our values are needed more than ever today. But we have to be honest with ourselves. We have to be honest that we've lost 3 elections in a row, and those values that I still believe are New Zealand's values and Labour values are no longer connecting with people's daily lives. We have to find the messages that take those values and put them into the lives of New Zealanders. And this hit home to me when I was door knocking in the election campaign. And a man said to me, I can't grasp the Labour Party in the palm of my hand. I try and grab a hold of you, but I can't see who you are. And he held out his other hand and he said, I can grasp the National Party in this hand. It was actually, he said, a picture of John Key, and he didn't really like it very much, but he could hold on to it. Our job is to give people a sense of who we are, that they can hold us in their hand. The party of fairness and the party of aspiration. The party of hope and the party of security. That with Labour, your family's future is secured in New Zealand and there's opportunity and hope for the future. We have to put that message back into the minds of New Zealanders. And as a sort of symbol of this, you will have seen the card that you got when you came in. A commitment card from me to you and from the Labour Party to New Zealand. Because on the white side of the card are the things we've got to get right in our own party. We have to sort our own act out first. I don't believe anything has done more damage to us as a party than the perception of disunity that has taken hold in the last few years. Once we get through this important process, the time for talking about ourselves is over. We must focus on the hopes, concerns and aspirations of the people we are sent to represent. We must make sure that we come together as a team around those core values and as a party around them. I've made some very specific commitments about the party on this card. I want our 2017 campaign committee formed right now with members elected from the membership to that committee. We need to use the expertise that we have. I also want us to see regional organisers employed on the ground so that the Labour Party can build capacity right through the cycle. We must, as a party, be part of our communities. We cannot expect to show up on the doorstep at election time and think that people will vote for us. We must be there throughout the period, part of the local campaigns that are going on, listening to the concerns of New Zealanders so that when election time comes, they're proud to vote Labour because Labour's part of their community. That will be our success. I also say on here that we've got to build mature and confident relationships with other parties who we will form a government with. Like anything in life, the trick to a good relationship is being confident about who we are. We need to be clear about who we are as a party and be that 40-45% party again. But we also must form relationships with parties like the Green Party that are mature, so that we go to the next election with New Zealanders absolutely clear that there is an alternative government that they can vote for. On the other side of the card is in red, and they are the commitments I believe that Labour needs to make to New Zealand. The first of those is being part of our communities. But we've also got to face the future. Be the party that looks ahead, that makes New Zealanders proud again by leading the world in addressing climate change and making sure that we are not satisfied by the growing gaps in our society and by facing up to the future of work, the fact that work is changing. We must lead by example and face the future. In addition to that, we've got to be clear and bold and direct about the things that matter for opportunity. Education, health, housing. They are the building blocks of allowing each and every New Zealander to achieve their potential. As a party, we must take stances on those policies that show New Zealanders we're on their side. And we must build our coalition out. The nature of work is changing. The kinds of people who we've called workers before now consider themselves small business people or entrepreneurs. We must be there for them as well. We will always be the party of work and workers. Work has changed. We need to broaden out our appeal. So if we can be bold and consistent and clear with New Zealanders, if we stand alongside them, then they will come back to us because our values are their values. As the leader of this party, I will bring our caucus together. I will unify our party and deliver on the promise we know we can achieve. As a party and as a movement, we must reconnect with New Zealanders, and we must do so every single day. Gough Whitlam died this week, or last week, and he actually had a saying, which I will finish after the bell. He said, we must leave behind the habits and fears of the past and face up to the demands and opportunities of the future. That is Labour's historic mission. If you vote for me as leader, we will get there. Thank you.
Tēnā koutou katoa. I think New Zealanders need something to hope for. That rockstar economy that National's been talking about in the regions and provinces throughout New Zealand tell a very different story. And it's time. We know at the last election the challenge was really difficult. Economic confidence was high. You were campaigning alongside members and volunteers throughout the country for the Labour cause. And what happened? Only 25% of people that voted for us. We've got a very serious challenge in front of us, but I'm absolutely sure people need something to hope for. I'm putting my hand up because I believe Labour is a party of aspiration and opportunity, and what we represent every day and in our communities alongside people who work with us is that they can believe that Labour will deliver to their aspirations and their opportunities. But we've got work to do to connect what we stand for to the things that they believe in, to what will happen out in their communities, in our regions and in our provinces. It's a very important challenge, and I want to thank you for all the effort you put in at the election. We've had 4 Hustings meetings, and throughout the whole of those meetings, the membership have been really trying to grapple with what is the nature of the challenge that we're dealing with. So the review that's taking place is an important one, because we all must participate in what it will take to turn this ship around, but also redefine what Labour stands for. In 2 years' time, we'll be celebrating our centenary. And that's a very important turning point for our party and for what we represent to future New Zealanders, because we need to be able to look around the room and say, we stand for a proud legacy and for a proud future. Yesterday in Labour Day, I was fortunate enough, alongside Grant, to join with members in South Auckland at the Waikaraka Cemetery and celebrate the achievements of Fred Evans, of Bill Anderson, of David Longy. And the reason why they went there was to ensure that young Labour members understood what it was that we stood for when we established ourselves as a Labour Party. 2 unionists who stood up against the odds and fought for what was right, the rights and interests of working people. And David Longy, a common man by the accounts of his friends that were there, someone who could walk through his community and people just knew him as David, not the Prime Minister or anything else. So Labour can show that we are ordinary people with extraordinary ambitions for their communities, but also for our country. People need something to hope for. Labour is a party of aspiration and opportunity. We can do things differently. I do bring a different approach, a different style, one that builds consensus, one that ensures that all members of the team will play their part. Because I can tell you this, we have a caucus with a whole heap of potential that's underutilised, and it needs to be utilised if we're going to present as a united team who can present itself to New Zealanders as a credible, stable option for an alternative government that will make a difference in the lives of many more New Zealanders. We're not just about those who need a hand up, we're about forging forward so that everybody can move together. That's the Labour Party I belong to, and when I look across this room and have had talks to people here, that's the Labour Party you belong to too. People need something to hope for. And if we're going to present ourselves in 2017, we've not only got to get our house in order and show that we're going to be a unified force, we've got to make the tough changes that will require a disciplined approach. There is no room for error. At 25%, do we want to be a 14% party? Well, I sure as heck don't, and I'm sure you don't as well. But we've got some work to do. I come from a little town in Huntly. We've got the mines and the power station and the river that could divide a town. However, the things that united us was work and play, in particular rugby league. The thing about work is that in this changing time, when National made changes to solid energy, we saw a lot of job losses, just like Damien did in his electorate. Now, I'm all for an economy that works in a responsible way alongside our environmental aspirations. But Labour is the party that can show, by investing in the regions and transitioning through and towards a low-carbon economy, how that can be achieved where we're still getting job growth. That's the message that people want to hear in provinces like mine and communities like mine, alternative solutions that are practical and that can be achieved. And that's where Labour can step into a space that shows there is a different way of doing things. Also, on the ladder of aspiration, when we talk about aspiration, we need to reach into the people and the communities where we're saying things could be different. We pride ourselves in being able to promote trades training, but why is it that when those same trainees go into a business or own their own business, somehow we lose their support? It shouldn't be that way. Aspiration changes as people climb the ladder of opportunity, and we've got to remain relevant and connected at every point, because we have to be the party where people will see themselves going from one step to another step without pulling the ladder up, and being able to stay engaged with their aspirations as they move through that ladder of opportunity. People need hope. They need something to believe in. They need the type of leadership that will build consensus and a team. They also need a no-nonsense approach. I'm a mum of 2 young children, both under 5. Our household is very hectic. I've got no time to waste. I will take a no-nonsense approach. There will be challenges, but I don't want to be a 14% party, and I do want to be a party that's more reflective of the New Zealand that we relate to throughout our provinces and throughout this country. Kia ora koutou katoa.